Dear learners, in this session, we will learn about tourism development in India under 5-year plans. Planning Commission, established in 1950, was an institution in the Government of India which formulated India's 5-year plans. The country's first 5-year plan was launched in 1951. 12th 5-year plan is called the last 5-year plan of India. Niti Aayog, that is National Institution for Transforming India, has replaced the Planning Commission of India, and now it is a policy think tank of the Government of India. From 1966 to 1969, no 5-year plan could be launched because of an Indo-China conflict. The conflict resulted in the devaluation of the currency and a general rise in prices. This erosion of resources disrupted the planning process. These years were treated in 3 annual plans between 1966 and 1969. The 5-year planning process was again disturbed in 1978 for 2 years and thereafter again in 1990 for 2 more years. On both these occasions, there was a political disturbance at the center. Now let us look at the progress of tourism development in 5-year plans. First 5-year plan was from 1951 to 1956. Tourism was not included in the first 5-year plan. During those times, tourism was looked after by the Ministry of Transport under a separate division formed in 1949. The allocations made for transport included the investments to be made for tourism as well. The provision for tourism development in first 5-year plan included the production of publicity material with an emphasis on participation in exhibitions and screening of films. The provisions also included the opening up of tourist offices both in the country and abroad. The notable work related to tourism during the first plan period was upgrading of tourist traffic branch of Ministry of Transport as the Tourist Traffic Division in 1955-56. This upgradation consequently helped in opening the India Tourist Offices at London in 1955, at Paris in 1956, at Melbourne in 1956, and at Colombo again in 1956. Second 5-year plan was from 1956 to 1961. It was from the second 5-year plan that development of tourist facilities was taken up in a planned manner. The main objectives of development of tourism during second 5-year plan were development of infrastructure to provide accommodation and transport facilities at important tourist destinations. The tourism plan was divided into 3 parts. Part 1 schemes were intended to create tourism facilities like accommodation, transport and recreational facilities for international tourists. These were fully financed, managed and controlled by central government. Part 2 schemes included development of tourist facilities for domestic tourists at important destinations and jointly financed by both central and state governments. Part 3 included schemes at places which were mainly of local and regional interest and visited largely by domestic tourists. These schemes were financed by state governments. A number of tourist bungalows were constructed at several tourist centers under Part 1 scheme. They were later transferred to India Tourism Development Corporation and renamed as Travelers Lodge. Now moving to the third 5-year plan, which was from 1961 to 1966, the tourist infrastructure facilities adopted in the second 5-year plan continued in the third 5-year plan and also to subsequent 3 annual plan periods from 1966 to 67, from 1967 to 68, and 1968 to 69. By the time third 5-year plan was launched, the potential of tourism as an instrument of growth and development has been realized. The number of foreign tourists visiting India had shown an increase that amounted to about 6 times over the decade. The central schemes catered to foreign tourists while the schemes of the states focused on domestic tourism. This resulted in a network of tourist facilities in areas where they had been negligible or non-existent. The plan document contained separate provisions for the development of winter sports complex at Gulmarg in Jammu and Kashmir. Moreover, measures were under consideration for assisting the hotel industry with loans for the construction of new hotels and improvement or expansion of the existing ones. The important milestone during the plan period was setting up of India Tourism Development Corporation, that is ITDC, in the year 1966 by unifying the Hotel Corporation of India, India Tourism Transport Undertaking and India Tourist Corporation. This was followed by another significant move when the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Tourism was formed in 1967. The fourth 5-year plan, 1969 to 1974, the fourth plan document recognizes tourism as an important means of earning foreign exchange and employment generation, the role of tourism in international relations, and it is an important tool for an international contacts and understanding with an emphasis on development has been acknowledged. Introduction of reduced fares on international air sectors resulted in the change in the pattern of tourist traffic to India. The number of tourists who came to stay in the country increased. Occupation-wise, the largest group consisted of educationists, followed by students and businessmen. Age profile of the visitors also changed with predominance of younger age group between 31 to 50 years. Expansion and improvement of tourist facilities in order to provide for the new class of tourists and promote destination traffic. 5 major integrated projects were included in the plan. These were Gulmarg Winter Sports Project, Beach Resort Development of Goa and Kovalam, development of Kullu and Manali, and few selected Buddhist centers. Gulmarg was selected by the government to develop winter sports on the advice of experts in 1960. As a first step, a ski instructors training school, later designated as the Indian Institute of Skiing and Mountaineering, was established by the Department of Tourism in 1968. Department of Tourism decided to develop Kovalam as a beach resort in 1967. The Kovalam Beach Resort comprises of hotel with 100 rooms, 40 cottages, a beach service center, open amphitheater, yoga cum massage center. Development of Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Nalanda complex was initiated during this plan in order to attract visitors from Japan, Korea and other Southeast Asian countries. A hotel development loan scheme was introduced to assist the hotel industry in the construction of new hotels at various tourist centers to provide 5,500 rooms. Financial assistance was made available to approved parties in the tourist trade for the purchase of transport vehicles with a view to build up a tourist transport fleet of acceptable international standards. A new scheme to boost overseas publicity called Operation Europe was launched in 1968 in partnership with Air India. This scheme was extended to UK, USA and Canada in 1971. In 1977, the scheme was extended to Australia, East Asia and West Asia. Now, fifth five-year plan. It was from 1974 to 1979. The tourism development started in the fourth five-year plan, continued in the fifth five-year plan, like integrated development of Gulmarg and Kovalam, development of Goa, Kullu, Manali, development of 10 architectural complexes of tourist importance, the disbursement of loans to private sector for hotel construction was transferred to Industrial Finance Corporation. The 15 youth hostels started in previous plan period. 11 tourist bungalows were completed in this plan period. In pursuance of the recommendation of UNESCO expert, a central coordinating committee was formed for the development of archaeological centers of tourist interest. 10 archaeological complexes were selected for development. The Town and Country Planning Organization of the Ministry of Works and Housing was commissioned to prepare master plans of 18 archaeological centers of tourist interest. In 1969, an expert committee was constituted to suggest improvements in the administration of national parks and sanctuaries and advise on the creation of new ones: Kaziranga, Sariska, Gir, Kanha, Bandipur, Mudumalai, Periyar and Tadoba sanctuaries were selected for development. Forest lodges proposed in previous plan were built during this plan in 5 wildlife sanctuaries. Now, sixth five-year plan. The period is from 1980 to 1985. In this plan, emphasis was laid on the continuance of integrated development of the selected beach and mountain resorts where schemes were in progress. The plan made provision for setting up the Institute of Tourism Training, tourist villages and new youth hostels. There were two noteworthy developments in the sixth five-year plan. One, introduction of the concept of travel circuits in tourism planning. And second, announcement of the first national tourism policy. Now, travel circuits were defined as predetermined routes along which the flow of tourist traffic could be channelized. The approach to tourism development was based on the concept of developing tourist centers falling along the selected travel routes or circuits. 2 or 3 travel circuits were identified in each state and union territory. It was in consultation with the respective governments for integrated development. 61 travel circuits were identified for the promotion of international and domestic tourism. The first national tourism of India was framed in this plan. We will discuss it in the other session in detail. Pilgrim traffic was given due importance by proposing cheap accommodation through dharamshalas and sarais. Greater emphasis was given on developing backward areas having ancient monuments, natural scenery, festivals and local handicrafts, etc. As part of this plan, provision were made to increase the carrying capacity of Indian Airlines, and at the same time enhancement of airport infrastructure was to be prioritized so that more flights can be accommodated. Now, moving to the seventh five-year plan, the plan period is from 1985 to 1990. It was agreed in principle to accord tourism the status of an industry. The National Development Council approved the proposal and recommended that tourism should be accorded the status of an industry. This meant that tourism-related business activities would be eligible to the same incentives and concessions as were available to other export industries. Subsequently, it was 15 states and 3 union territories declared tourism as an industry, and 4 states declared hotel as an industry. Emphasis was laid on encouraging private sector investments in developing tourism and leaving development of support infrastructure to the public sector investments. National Committee on Tourism was formulated with a view of long-term perspective plan for tourism sector. It was set up by the Planning Commission in 1986. The committee recommended the following. Development of industry should best be left to the initiative of the private sector. Tourism Finance Corporation should be set up to provide loans to the tourism industry to cater to the specialized needs. Supplementary accommodation should be encouraged by providing suitable incentives. The travel trade need to be given selected fiscal and monetary incentives which are already available to export industry. To adopt a liberal policy to allow foreign airlines to meet the projected demand to travel to and from India, air charters to be liberally allowed, the existing organizational structure of the Department of Tourism to be reorganized. For human resource development, institutes of management should have separate departments of hospitality, and universities should be encouraged to introduce tourism courses. IITTM, that is Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management, should be effectively developed as an apex body in travel trade education. Assessment of carrying capacity of areas where tourism is to be promoted. Now, 8th five-year plan The time period was from 1992 to 1997. The future expansion of tourism to be achieved mainly through the private sector. The various activities which were to be given thrust during the 8th five-year plan were the development of selected tourist places, diversification of culture-oriented tourism to holiday and leisure tourism, development of trekking, winter sports, wildlife and beach resort tourism, restoration of national heritage projects, streamlining of facilitation procedure at airports, development of Buddhist circuit in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Ajanta-Ellora region with the assistance of Overseas Economic Cooperation Fund of Japan. 9th five-year plan. The time period is from 1997 to 2002. The policy objective in the 9th plan is to work towards creating a tourism product that provides the persons traveling to various places a pleasant experience on their trips through an environment of peace, stability, security, and an integrated system of physical infrastructure that does not fail. Tourism should become a unifying force nationally and internationally, fostering better understanding through travel. The approach and thrust in the 9th plan will be to concentrate on the development of selected centers and circuits through effective coordination of public and private efforts so as to achieve synergy in the development of this sector. Indigenous and natural health tourism, rural and village tourism, pilgrim tourism, adventure tourism, heritage tourism, youth and senior citizen tourism were the major thrust areas in this plan. In order to give boost to foreign exchange earnings, employment and income generation through tourism activities, export house status granted to tourism units, tourism promotion in Northeast, the potential of tourism products of Northeast was realized, and through schemes it was proposed to promote Northeast as a tourism destination. Special emphasis was laid on production of tourist brochures and other literature and on training of local guides, intersectoral coordination, the development program of civil aviation sector, particularly that of Airport Authority of India, would aid in promotion of tourism in order to facilitate movement of tourists, particularly where the road segment are in poor condition. It will be important to develop water transport systems like cruises. Ministry of Railways introduced 2 special tourist trains and much more trains were in pipeline with the assistance of private sector participation. For human resource development, there were 20 institutes of hotel management and catering technology and 13 food craft institutions. A number of institutes to be started in the coming plan with the assistance of private sector. Development of training facilities will be encouraged in the private sector, and government will withdraw from providing budgetary support for the setting up and running of training institutes. Now let us see the provisions in the 10th five-year plan. The time period for it is 2002 to 2007. The 10th plan approach towards tourism had distinct shift from the earlier plans. The 10th plan recognized the vast employment generating potential of tourism and the role it can play in furthering the socio-economic objective of the plan. The strategic objectives were positioning tourism as a national priority, enhancing India's competitiveness as a tourist destination, improving and expanding product development, creation of world-class infrastructure, effective marketing plans and programs. Major components of the 10th plan strategy were to develop a national consensus on the role of tourism in the development agenda of the nation through the National Development Council, to create world-class circuits and destinations, to augment training facilities in hotel management, food craft, and build the capacity of service providers at the cutting edge, to remove the barriers to growth, to leverage private sector investment, to provide legislative and regulatory support to protect the tourism industry, the consumer, and the environment, to mobilize public support by creating awareness of the socio-economic benefits of tourism for the host community. 11th five-year plan, time period from 2007 to 2012. The vision for tourism sector for the 11th five-year plan was to achieve a superior quality of life through development and promotion of tourism, which would provide a unique opportunity for physical invigoration, mental rejuvenation, cultural enrichment, and spiritual elevation. The vision for tourism development was proposed to be achieved through the following strategic objectives, that is, positioning and maintaining tourism development as a national priority, enhancing and maintaining India's competitiveness, improving and expanding product development, creating world-class infrastructure, drawing up effective marketing plans, developing human resource and capacity building of service providers. To accomplish the targets set forth in the 11th five-year plan, the Ministry of Tourism implemented following schemes during this plan. One is product infrastructure development for destination and circuits. Second, overseas promotion and publicity, including market development assistance. Another is assistance to IHMs, FCI, IITTM, etc. and also capacity building for service providers, domestic promotion and publicity, assistance to large revenue generating projects, incentives to accommodation infrastructure, creation of land banks, assistance to central agencies, market research including 20 years perspective plan, computerization and information technology. Ministry of Tourism along with the stakeholders adopted Code of Conduct for Safe and Honorable Tourism and signed it on 27 September 2010 with the stakeholders. Now, the last five-year plan is the 12th five-year plan. The time period is from 2012 to 2017. In order to realize the potential of this sector, the government would need to adopt a pro-poor tourism approach aimed at increasing the net benefits to the poor from tourism and ensure that tourism growth contributes to poverty reduction. There is likely to be a gap of around 8 lakh manpower in the hospitality sector. To bridge this gap, a number of new initiatives have to be taken for skill development. Planning Commission's approach addresses the need to focus on tourism clusters and circuits to realize India's enormous assets with tourism potential. Though Incredible India brand is now well established, its advantage has to be explored fully. The existing efforts of Ministry of Tourism in this area will be further strengthened through measures like undertaking widespread and aggressive promotional activities, developing new markets from ASEAN, Middle East, African countries, CIS, opening new representative offices overseas for a wider reach, developing and promoting new tourism products like golf, polo, wellness and medical, MICE, caravan, cruise, adventure and wildlife tourism. A study conducted by Ministry of Tourism at important tourist destinations revealed that lack of hygiene and sanitation is a major irritant for both foreign and domestic tourists. So the criteria and indicators of sustainable tourism for hotels, tour operators and rural tourism homestays will be finalized in this plan. Now we will conclude this session. Tourism industry is known as a capital intensive industry, and there is requirement of finances for tourism projects in form of infrastructure, marketing, developing attractions, etc. Over the years, government has formulated various policies and plans to streamline the growth and development of tourism activities. Tourism economic and social significance was recognized in the 5-year plans, and the plan outlay thus has increased over the period of time in different 5-year plans. Thank you.